Lisa told her friends I was a contractor because it sounded better. Then the toilet exploded at her dinner party. Her regional VP stood in our hallway, shoes splashed, looking at the water pouring through the light fixture like it was a modern art piece. He turned to me and said the most reasonable thing anyone had said in that house all night. "Ben, you own a plumbing company, right? Can you take a look before this turns into the Titanic?" I pushed my chair back to stand up. And my wife, the woman whose mortgage I'd been paying for 6 years, snapped, "Don't touch it, Ben, let's call a professional." Her boss blinked, I blinked. The water kept dripping. I picked up my napkin, wiped my mouth and said, "You're right, you can't afford my rates." Then I walked out. But that was the end. If you really want to understand it, you have to go back to the beginning, to before the pipes and the polished flatware and the fake words she used instead of plumber. "I'm Ben, I fix things for a living. Specifically, I own a plumbing company. 3 trucks, 6 techs, 1 office manager who runs the world. We do everything from unclogging student apartment drains to full commercial build-outs. It's not glamorous, but it's honest, it's necessary, and it pays better than most people think." I didn't start out owning anything. I started as an 18-year-old apprentice dragging 50 feet of hose up apartment stairs at 6 in the morning. While most of my high school friends went off to college and frat parties, I went to job sites and night classes. I got licensed, learned the codes by heart, figured out how to talk to inspectors without making them hate me, and eventually, at 30, I scraped together enough to buy the business from the old guy who trained me. By the time I met Lisa, at 34, I had a good thing going. Nice little house in a solid neighborhood outside Denver, 2 paid-off trucks and 1 new one, a growing list of commercial clients, 2 guys on payroll, and a dog that thought I hung the moon. What I didn't have was someone to come home to who wasn't covered in PVC glue. Lisa came into my life at a charity gala I didn't want to attend. My buddy Ray's wife, Jenna, guilted me into buying a ticket for some local kids' literacy fundraiser. "You never go anywhere that doesn't involve a wrench," she said. "Put on a jacket that doesn't have your name stitched on it and talk to people." I wore the only suit I owned, the one from my cousin's wedding, and stood in the hotel ballroom nursing a drink, trying not to look like security. Lisa walked in 10 minutes late, in a navy dress and heels that made her almost my height. She had that corporate glow, good hair, expensive watch, the kind of confident stride people get when they're used to telling assistants what to do. She ended up at my table between Ray and me. When they introduced us, she gave me a firm handshake. "What do you do?" she asked. "Plumbing," I said. "Own a small company north of town, mostly commercial, couple of crews." Her eyes brightened in a way I didn't expect. "You own it?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Bought it from my old boss a few years back." "That's amazing," she said. "I love entrepreneurs. I'm in corporate, so I just sit in meetings all day and send emails. You actually build things." It was the first time I'd ever heard someone at one of these events talk about my work like that. Usually, I got polite nods and a quick subject change to the market or startups or whatever podcast they were into that week. We spent most of the night talking. She told me she was in marketing at a big software company downtown, climbing the ladder, hungry for a director title. I told her about nightmare sewer backups and the time a raccoon fell through a restaurant ceiling during brunch. She laughed, loud and real, not the polite way people laugh at something they don't really get. At the end of the night, she handed me her card. "Take me out somewhere that doesn't smell like hotel chicken," she said. "I want to hear more raccoon stories." We started dating. It was easy at first. She liked that I could fix things. When her garbage disposal died, I replaced it in 20 minutes. When her apartment shower only had 2 temperatures, Arctic and hell, I adjusted the mix valve. "He's like a magician," she told her friends, grinning. "I complain and suddenly it works." I liked that she could navigate a room. I'm good with people one-on-one, but put me in a networking event and I'd rather snake a hairball out of a drain. Lisa floated from group to group, remembering names, making jokes, slipping me into conversations like I belonged there. We moved in together after a year into my house. She sold her apartment's furniture and filled my place with plants and throw pillows and things that matched. Suddenly, my bachelor sectional had accent cushions. "Don't pretend you don't like it," she said, fluffing a pillow. "It's cozy," I admitted. I didn't know my couch was supposed to have outfits. We got married a year after that, small ceremony in the backyard. Ray stood next to me. Jenna and a couple of Lisa's coworkers fussed over centerpieces. We strung up lights, grilled steaks, and danced on the grass until midnight. In our vows, she said she loved my work ethic and the way I could build a whole life with my hands. I said I loved her drive and the way she dreamed bigger than I did. We meant it at the time. The disrespect didn't start right away. It snuck in like slow leaks, little drips you tell yourself you'll deal with later. The first one I noticed was small. We were at a happy hour with her coworkers a few months after the wedding. A rooftop bar downtown, everyone in business casual, little sliders on trays, drinks with rosemary sprigs in them. One of her coworkers, Megan, turned to me and said, "So Ben, what do you do?" "I run a plumbing company," I said. Lisa laughed a little too quickly. "He's a contractor," she said. "He manages projects all over the city." "Plumbing projects," I added. Megan nodded vaguely. "Cool, my uncle's in construction. The hours are brutal." The conversation moved on, normal enough. Later in the car I said, "Contractor, huh?" She shrugged, eyes on the road. "It's easier for them to understand." "What's hard to understand about plumber?" I asked. "It's one of the oldest jobs in the book." "People hear plumber and think butt cracks and clogged toilets," she said, wrinkling her nose. "Contractor sounds more professional." "I am a professional," I said. "So are my guys. We're licensed, insured. I have 2 journeymen who can do in a day what most people can't do in a week." She reached over and patted my hand. "I know, babe, I'm just talking about perception." "Whose perception?" I asked. "Yours or theirs?" She pulled her hand back. "Don't be sensitive," she said. "It's just semantics." Semantics turned into a habit. At parties in front of her friends, I was always in construction, or a contractor, or he manages crews. The word plumber disappeared like she'd put it on some internal list of words you don't say in polite company. When we were alone, she'd still say, "Hey, my plumber husband, can you look at the sink?" But the minute someone with a LinkedIn profile walked in, I was Ben. He runs operations. It grated, but I let it go, the way you let a cabinet door squeak for a while before finally grabbing the oil. The next leak was under the table, literally. We'd be out to dinner with her coworkers, or at a team outing, and someone would ask me a question. "How's business? What's it like running your own thing? Any horror stories?" I'd start telling a story about a hotel job or a school remodel, and if I slipped into my normal way of talking, dropped a ain't, used me and Ray instead of Ray and I'd feel a sharp kick to my shin. At first I thought it was an accident. Then I noticed the pattern. Every time I said something that outed me as not corporate, there it was, a little jolt, a reminder. Funny thing is, I'm not dumb. I know how to speak boardroom when I have to. I sit in meetings with property managers and developers all the time. I can talk about timelines and bids and change orders in complete sentences. But at a casual dinner, I talk the way I grew up talking. I don't put on a hard hat and a tie at the same time. Apparently, that was a problem. One night at a tapas place, we were out with her boss, Paul, and his wife, Claire. Big night. Lisa had been stressing about this dinner for a week. She de-picked the restaurant, planned her outfit, Even bought new plates for the house in case they came back for a drink afterward. We were midway through some tiny expensive dish when Paul asked me, "So, Ben, what's the craziest thing you've seen on a job?" I smiled. "You sure you want to know? I've got stories that can ruin your appetite." He laughed. "Try me." "Well," I said, "me and my guy Ray were doing this job in an old building downtown." "Kick." "Ray and I," Lisa said automatically, without even looking at me. Paul's eyebrows went up a fraction. Claire glanced at Lisa, then at me. I paused. It wasn't the first time she'd corrected my grammar. She did it at home sometimes, jokingly. It's "I couldn't care less," not "I could care less, babe." I'd roll my eyes and move on. But under the table, in front of her boss, different sport. I looked at her. She gave me that tight smile, the "we'll talk later" one. "Ray and I corrected, voice even. "We were in this old building downtown." I finished my story. Paul laughed in the right places. The world didn't end, but a little something in me shifted. In the car on the way home, I said, "Don't do that again." "Do what?" she asked, though she knew. "Kick me and fix my grammar while I'm answering your boss's question," I said. "If you want an English teacher, hire one. You married a plumber." "You sounded uneducated," she said bluntly. "Uneducated because I said me and Ray?" I asked. "Or because I mentioned I pulled a dead squirrel out of a hotel sink once?" She made a face. "Can we not?" "No, we're already here," I said. "Let's stay." She gripped the steering wheel tighter. "You know these people are snobs," she said. "Why give them ammunition?" "I don't care if they think I'm not fancy," I said. "My invoice is clear. Their toilet's flush. They need me more than I need them." She sighed. "You don't get it." "You're right," I said. "I don't get why you're ashamed of what I do for a living when what I do pays for dinners like that one." "That's not fair," she snapped. "I make good money too." "You do," I said, "and I'm proud of you for it. I've never once downplayed your job. I don't call you a paper pusher or PowerPoint maker in front of my clients. I say my wife's in marketing, she's killing it. Why is it so hard for you to say my husband's a plumber?" She stared straight ahead. "Because people judge," she said quietly. "Let them," I said. "Their opinions don't fix leaks." We rode the rest of the way home in silence. That was year 3 of our marriage. By then, the cracks were starting to show. There were good days still. Mornings when she'd come sit on the tailgate of my truck while I loaded tools, coffee in hand, hair pulled up, wearing my sweatshirt. "I love that you can just make things work," she'd say, watching me stack pipe. "My whole job is convincing people to do stuff. You just turn a wrench and it listens." "It doesn't always listen," I'd say. "That's why I carry 3 sizes of wrench." We'd laugh. She'd de-kiss me, wishing me a good day, telling me to be safe. Then she'd go downtown in heels and a blazer and come back with stories about office politics and presentations. And I'd listen, genuinely interested. The problem wasn't that we were in different worlds. It was that she started thinking hers was up here and mine was down there. The money complicates things. When we got serious, Lisa was a mid-level marketing manager. Good salary, nice benefits, not partner at a firm money. I was bringing in more, but unevenly. Some months were fat, big contracts, multiple jobs. Some were lean. We decided early on to live on my business income for the big stuff, mortgage, cars, savings, and put hers toward extras and investments. "That way," I said, sitting at the kitchen table with a notepad, "if either of us loses our job, we're not screwed." "You're not going to lose your job," she said. "Everyone needs toilets." "Maybe," I said, "but recessions hit everyone eventually, contractors too." So we set it up. My account paid the mortgage and utilities and business costs. Her paycheck went to vacations, her MBA program, the new kitchen she wanted and I eventually agreed to. We built a life on a mixed foundation, half pipe wrenches, half PowerPoints. She loved that life. The house, the trips, The fact that we could say yes to last-minute concert tickets without checking our account first. She did not love the fact that this life came from me crawling under houses and in crawl spaces. She wanted the fruits of blue-collar labor without the label. The first time I realized that clearly was at her company's summer event. They rented out a fancy winery. Everyone was in sundresses and button-downs, name tags on lanyards. I was in my good jeans and a clean polo, no logo at her request. Just dress neutral, she'd said. You know, blendy. I could have taken that as an insult. I chose not to, at least not that day. We were standing with a group of her coworkers when her new VP, an older guy with silver hair and the kind of tan you get from golf, walked over. Lisa, he said, beaming, you must be the husband. I shook his hand, firm, not bone-crushing. Ben, I said, nice to meet you. And what line of work are you in, Ben? He asked, that polite small-talk tone. I own a plumbing company, I said. We do residential and commercial around the metro. Ben's a contractor, Lisa cut in. He runs big projects, manages crews, that kind of thing. I looked at her, then at him. It's plumbing, I said. We bid jobs, we install, we fix when things break. Same chaos, fewer meetings. He laughed. The world needs good tradespeople, he said. Every time something breaks in my house, I'm reminded I should have paid more attention in shop class. His wife, standing slightly behind him, nodded. Our plumber saved us last winter when a pipe burst, she said. I don't care what people do for a living as long as they know what they're doing. Exactly, I said. Lisa smiled, a little too bright. Ben's very good at what he does, she said. He just undersells it. On the drive home, she brought it up. Why did you correct me? She asked. Correct you how? I said, though I knew. When I said you were a contractor, she said, you made such a big deal of it's plumbing. You made it sound small. I made it sound accurate, I said. That VP seemed fine with it. His wife loves her plumber. You don't understand these people, she said, frustrated. They're old school. They went to Ivy League schools. They notice things. They put people in boxes. Maybe stop caring so much about their boxes, I said. You're one reorg away from them forgetting your name. My clients remember mine when their basement is 3 inches deep. You're so cynical, she said. No, I said, I'm practical. We let it drop, but the box she was putting me in stayed. Fast forward to the night, everything really cracked. Lisa got promoted to Director of Brand Strategy for the Western region. Huge deal in her world. Bigger office, bigger salary, bigger expectations. We have to celebrate, she said. And not just with our friends. I want to host a dinner here for my team, for Paul and his boss. Really show them I'm in their league. Your league, I repeated, not ours. You know what I mean, she said. I want them to see we're established, that I'm not just some girl from Arvada who lucked into this. You're also married to a guy from Arvada, I said, and I'm not luck. She kissed my cheek. You know what I mean, she said again. Can you not get all philosophical on me? Just say you'll grill something and behave. Behave how? I asked. Don't undersell yourself, she said. Don't tell poop stories. Don't say ain't every other word. Maybe mention the commercial contracts, not the time you fished a wedding ring out of a trap. I looked at her for a long beat. I'll be myself, I said. If that's not good enough, that's data. She rolled her eyes. Just meet me halfway, okay? I didn't agree out loud. I also didn't plan to talk about wedding rings in traps. I'm not out to embarrass myself for sport. She went all out for the dinner, hired a caterer for the appetizers and dessert, but insisted we cook the main course for authenticity. She had the house professionally cleaned. New curtains went up in the dining room. She bought cloth napkins and a centerpiece that looked like something out of a magazine. You'd think the Pope was coming, Ray said when he and Jenna swung by that afternoon to drop off extra chairs. It's her boss's boss, I said. In Lisa's world, that's close enough. In the kitchen, Jenna watched Lisa fuss over the table settings. "You okay?" Jenna asked quietly. "Fine," I said. "Why?" "Just, you look like you're bracing for impact," she said. "I've got a feeling," I said, "like a pipe that rattles before it bursts." She gave me a look. "You know you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep someone else's status warm, right?" I smiled. "You've been listening to podcasts again." "Guilty," she said, "but I'm also right." By 6, the house looked like a showroom. Candles lit, jazz playing at a low volume, table set with the good plates. I'd showered, shaved, put on dark jeans and a button-down, clean boots, no company logo, hair actually combed. "You look great," Lisa said, eyeing me. "Remember, Paul's boss is named Jeff. His wife is Claire. He's into golf and startups. She's into yoga and travel." "I'll try to remember my lines," I said. She narrowed her eyes. "Don't be like that." "Like what?" I asked. "Defensive," she said. "I just want tonight to go well. This is important." "I know it is," I said. "To you, I'll be polite. I won't embarrass you." "You never embarrass me," she said too quickly. We both knew that wasn't true. The guests arrived on time because corporate people treat dinner parties like meetings. First came a couple of her peers, Megan, who I'd met before, and a guy named Steve with an overconfident handshake. Then Paul and his wife. Then finally Jeff and Claire, the boss and his blonde, yoga-loving wife. "Lisa," Jeff said, stepping into the foyer, "this place is beautiful." "Thank you," she beamed. "Ben did most of the work himself." I noticed she didn't elaborate on what work meant. In the dining room, everyone settled in, wine poured, small talk flowing. "So Ben," Claire said at one point, "I hear you're in construction." I smiled. "Plumbing," I said. "I own a plumbing company. We do a lot of the build-outs for the newer office spaces downtown." "Ah," Jeff said, nodding. "Commercial." "Yeah," I said. "We got the contract for that new biotech campus over in Lone Tree. Keeps my guys busy." "Impressive," he said. "Lisa undersold you." I glanced at her. Her jaw tightened just a fraction. "I think you said contractor when you mentioned him," Claire added, looking at Lisa. Lisa laughed lightly. "He wears a lot of hats," she said. "He's out there running around managing crews. Plumber doesn't really cover it." "Plumber covers it fine," I said calmly. "We run a tight ship, a lot of coordination, a lot of problem solving, but at the end of the day it's still pipes and fixtures." Jeff looked between us, amused. "Hey, my dad was an electrician," he said. "No shame in trades around here. I grew up in crawl spaces." Lisa's smile stretched. "Of course," she said. "I just meant." She didn't get to finish. Because that's when the house groaned. If you've lived in a place long enough, you learn its sounds. The soft clicks, the settling cracks, the way the pipes hiss when someone flushes upstairs. This sound was different. A deep thunk followed by a rushing whoosh. Then faintly from down the hall, "Oh my God." We all turned. Megan was in the hallway, staring at the ceiling. A yellow stain was blooming around the recessed light above the bathroom. A second later, water started dripping, then pouring from the fixture onto the hardwood. Everyone jumped up at once. Chairs scraped, napkins dropped. "Oh my God," Lisa said again, this time as a prayer. "No, no, no." Water tap dance dripped onto the runner, then ran down the hall, a little creek heading straight for the dining room. "Is there someone in the bathroom?" I asked, already moving. "Paul's in there," Claire said, covering her mouth. Of course he was. A second later, the bathroom door opened. Paul stepped out, pants thankfully buttoned, looking shell-shocked. "I just flushed," he said helplessly, "and then that." Water was pouring from the base of the toilet now, a nice little waterfall across the tile. I stepped past him to look. Classic old house problem. One of the original galvanized lines must have finally given up, combined with a loose seal. It happens. Pipes don't care if your boss is over. Where's your main shutoff? Jeff asked me, already rolling his sleeves. In the basement, I said. I'll get it. Lisa, grab some towels, please. I headed for the basement door, mentally mapping the quickest fix. Shut the water, mop up, toss a wax ring on the toilet, shut that angle, stop. Temporary patch in 30 minutes, permanent repair tomorrow. Behind me, Jeff said, let Ben handle it. Last thing we need is water in the electrical. Claire laughed nervously. At least you have a professional on site tonight. I had my hand on the basement doorknob when I heard Lisa's voice. Shrill, edge I hadn't heard in public before. Don't touch it, Ben, she snapped. We'll call a professional. The room went still. Even the leaking seemed to pause. I turned slowly. Everyone was looking at her. Jeff, Claire, Paul, the coworkers. Water was still dripping from the light fixture, but the social leak was suddenly center stage. Lisa, I said carefully, this is literally what I do. Her cheeks were flush, eyes wide, panic but not about the water. I don't want you tearing things up in the middle of dinner, she said, voice high. You'll make a mess. We'll just call the emergency line. They have real equipment. Real equipment. Jeff's eyebrows shot up. I thought you owned the company, he said to me, confused. I do, I said, eyes still on Lisa. She doubled down. They have people who specialize in this, she said quickly, looking at Jeff. He's more on the business side now. He doesn't really do the dirty work anymore. Every word was a little weight on the scale. My guys. My trucks. My knees with 20 years of crawl space, dust in them. But sure, I didn't do the dirty work. Something clicked. Not a switch this time, more like a lock on a door I didn't know I was holding closed. I let go of the doorknob, walked back to the dining room, picked up my napkin from my chair, folded it. You're right, I said, my voice calm. You should call a professional. She let out a breath, relieved for half a second. I held her gaze. You can't afford my rates, I added quietly. Not anymore. Jeff's eyes widened. Claire covered her mouth. Someone inhaled sharply. The whole room tuned into that sentence like a radio. Ben, Lisa hissed, don't make a scene. Scene's already here, I said. I'm just not performing anymore. I turned to Jeff. Jeff, I'm sorry your evening got drenched, I said. If you want, I can recommend a great plumbing company. They charge extra for emergencies on weekends, worth every penny. He looked at me for a second. There was something in his eyes, surprise, yes, also understanding. Thanks, Ben, he said quietly. I'll take that number. I nodded, looked around at the room, at the people who, 5 minutes earlier, had been talking about brand narratives and KPIs. Enjoy your dinner, I said. Try the potatoes, they're good. Then I grabbed my keys from the side table and walked out of my own house. No yelling, no slammed door, just a straight line from the table to the driveway. I sat in my truck for a minute, hands on the wheel, listening to my heart. It was steady, not the racing it does when I'm about to crawl under a flooded slab, more like the beat you get when you finally get a stubborn fitting to loosen. Effort, then release. I pulled out of the driveway and drove. Not to raise, he had 2 kids under 5 and a small house that didn't need my drama. Not to a bar, that's never been my coping mechanism. I drove to my office. My company's office is in a small warehouse space in an industrial strip. The front is a little reception area with a faded couch and a coffee maker. The back is bays and racking and the trucks. At 9:30 at night, it was dark and quiet. I punched in the alarm code, turned on the lights in the front and sat at my own desk. The sign above the door says Miller Mechanical Plumbing and Heating. The business license on the wall has my name on it. The pictures on the bulletin board show my guys, my trucks, the Christmas party we had at a bowling alley last year. I pulled my laptop out of my bag and opened a browser. I'd talked to a lawyer 6 months before, after a different, smaller disrespect. The night Lisa joked at a brunch that she married down for character. I'd stung enough that I'd made an appointment. Back then, Melissa, the lawyer, had given me a folder and said, "You don't have to use any of this. But if the day comes when you're done, it's better to know where the exits are." Tonight, I opened that folder. I filled out the intake form on her website. In the "What brings you in" box, I typed, "My wife told her boss I'm not qualified to fix a toilet in my own house and told me to call a professional. I am the professional." Her assistant emailed me back within 15 minutes with a morning appointment. Plumbers aren't the only ones who respond to emergencies. I stayed at the office that night, stretched out on the old couch, jacket as a blanket. It felt more like home than my house did. The next morning, I met with Melissa again. She poured coffee from a carafe, set it in front of me, and said, "So, what happened?" I told her about the dinner, about the water, about Lisa's line and mine. She listened, nodding. "Emotionally, you hit the line," she said. "Legally, let's figure out where you stand." We went through everything. The house, technically in both our names but with my income on the mortgage application. The business, which I'd kept separate per her original advice. The vehicles, the accounts. "You've been the primary earner for most of the marriage," she said. "That cuts both ways. She may ask for spousal support, depending on her salary, but you're also the one who has the capacity to keep paying your bills. The main thing is, protect the business and don't let guilt drive your decisions." "What about the house?" I asked. "She loves that house, but I'm not eager to keep paying for a place where I'm a prop." "We have options," she said. "You can offer to buy out her share, have her sign a quitclaim. You can sell and split the equity. Or you can let her keep it if she can refinance in her name, which it doesn't sound like she can afford." "She'd struggle on her salary alone," I said. "Not impossible, but tight. That house, the car, the extras, that's mostly plumbing money." "Then don't subsidize her lifestyle after she's made it clear she doesn't respect the source," she said. "That's not punishment, that's alignment." She slid a document across the desk. "We can file for divorce this week," she said. "Or you can take the papers home and think about it. But from what you're telling me, you already made the decision in the dining room last night." She wasn't wrong. "I'm done," I said. "I don't want to go home to someone who refuses to say what I do out loud." "Then let's move," she said, quietly, methodically, like shutting off a main. She told me to open a new personal checking account, separate from the business and the joint one, and redirect my direct deposits there. Not hide anything, just protect it. She told me to get copies of our last 3 years of tax returns, the mortgage statement, the retirement accounts. "Document, don't detonate," she said. "That's the difference between a clean exit and a mess." I left her office lighter than I'd gone in. On the way back to my truck, I got a text from Lisa. "We need to talk." I stared at the screen for a second. Then I typed, "Agreed. I'll be by the house to grab some clothes this afternoon. After that, if we talk, it'll be through lawyers." 3 dots, then. "You're being ridiculous. It was a stressful moment. I said the wrong thing. Can we please just talk like adults?" I typed, deleted, typed again. Finally settled on, "I've been talking like an adult for 3 years. Last night was me finally listening to myself." She didn't reply. That afternoon, I went back to the house, parked on the street, not in the driveway. It felt symbolic. Inside, there were faint water stains on the dining room ceiling. The hallway floor was still damp in spots. A fan hummed in the bathroom. Lisa sat at the table, arms crossed, eyes red. She de-changed out of the dress from last night into leggings and a sweatshirt. Barefoot. She looked smaller without the armor. "You just left," she said as soon as I walked in. "You told me not to touch it," I said, "so I didn't." "That's not what I meant and you know it," she said. "I panicked. Our house was flooding. My boss was there. I said something stupid." You've been saying stupid things for a while, I said. Last night just had better acoustics. She stood. So that's it. You're divorcing me because I used the wrong words once. I set my duffel bag down by the stairs. No, I said. I'm divorcing you because you're ashamed of me, because you lie about what I do for a living, because you kick me under tables and correct my grammar in front of your boss, because you'd rather call someone else a professional than admit your husband can fix a pipe. She flinched. You're twisting everything, she said. I'm proud of you. I tell people all the time how hard you work. You tell them I'm a contractor, I said. You tell them I manage projects. You don't tell them I spent 20 years learning a trade that literally keeps your world from smelling like a sewer. Tears welled up. You're making me sound like a monster, she said. You're not a monster, I said. You're just someone who cares more about how things look than what they are. I'm someone who cares more about what they are. That was cute when we were dating. It's incompatible now. So that's it, she said again. You've already talked to a lawyer. Yes, I said. 6 months ago. Last night just confirmed I wasn't overreacting. You had an exit plan before you even gave me a chance to change, she said, voice breaking. I gave you plenty of chances, I said. Every time I asked you not to correct me at dinner, every time I asked you to use the word plumber, every time I told you it hurt that you were embarrassed by me, you called me sensitive. You said I didn't understand your world. You were right. I don't. And I don't want to. She sank back into the chair, put her head in her hands. What am I supposed to do? She whispered. Call a professional, I said. Specifically, a lawyer. Melissa's good. She'll treat you fairly, or find your own. But understand this. I'm done funding a life where I'm treated like a liability instead of a partner. What about the house? She asked, looking up, panic in her eyes. I can't afford this on my own. I know, I said. You can buy me out, refinance, or we can sell and split the equity. I'm not going to be the silent investor in your image anymore. So you're just going to let me lose the house, she said, incredulous. I'm not letting anything, I said. I'm stepping out of the role where I absorb consequences for your choices. You wanted a husband with a white-collar title. Go find one. I'm not going to pretend to be that for your coworkers while paying for their impression of you. That's cruel, she said. No, I said. Cruel would be staying and letting this resentment rot the foundation completely. This is demolition, clean, necessary. She stared at me for a long time. Then quietly, do you still love me? I thought about it. Not about the socially acceptable answer, but the real one. I love who I thought you were, I said. I love the woman who was proud to introduce me as the guy who could fix anything. I don't love the woman who tells me not to touch a toilet in my own house because her boss might see me sweat. She winced. I picked up my bag. I'll be at Ray's for a few days, I said. After that, we'll figure out more permanent arrangements. From here on out, logistics only. Ben, she said, please. I'm not asking permission, I said. I'm telling you where the line is. You crossed it. I'm walking. I left. Divorces don't finalize in a montage. They crawl. Papers filed, responses submitted, negotiations, emails. But once you've mentally left, the rest is just steps. We listed the house. The market was still good. It sold in a month. Lisa cried when the sign went up in the yard. I worked so hard for this, she said. So did I said. She moved into a newer, smaller apartment downtown. Nice, but nowhere near the square footage or cachet of our place. She kept the mid-range car with the big payment. I kept my old truck and the business vehicles. In the settlement, she got a portion of our savings and part of my retirement, as is fair. She did contribute, at least for the first few years. I didn't fight that. I did fight and win to keep the business completely mine. Without the business, Melissa had said, you don't just lose income, you lose identity. Don't negotiate with that. We had a few tense meetings where Lisa's lawyer floated the idea that my business was our asset, that she'd supported me in starting it. I had the business before we met, I said. She came into a running system. That's like marrying a doctor and demanding half his license, Melissa added. Not happening. In the end, Lisa conceded. I think some part of her understood that my company was the thing that would keep me from living in a van. She didn't actually want me ruined, just smaller. After the dust settled, I moved into a smaller place myself, a 3-bedroom ranch across town that needed work, old pipes, outdated fixtures. It was cheaper than our old place but on a bigger lot. I could see the mountains from the back porch on clear days. I spent my evenings fixing it up. New PEX lines, updated bathrooms, a kitchen I built myself with cabinets I installed on a weekend. Sweat equity, my kind of therapy. The company kept growing. Word of mouth does that when you treat people right and show up on time. One day, about a year after the divorce, I got a call from a property manager we'd worked with on a few small jobs. "Hey Ben," he said, "we've got a busted main at that office park on 5th. Can you get a crew out here ASAP? It's bad." I was in the truck 5 minutes later, old habits. When I pulled up, police cars and fire trucks crowded the entrance. Water was bubbling up out of a landscape strip, turning the parking lot into a shallow lake. I parked a block away and walked up, toolbox in hand. As I passed the front of one of the buildings, I saw a familiar logo on the glass. Lisa's company. New office. Must have moved after the sale. Through the lobby window, I caught a glimpse of her. Pencil skirt, hair in a tight bun, phone to her ear, looking stressed. She didn't see me. I didn't try to get her attention. I set my guys on the job, coordinated with the city, got the water shut down, the break isolated. At one point, the building manager walked over with a man in a suit. "This is Jeff," the manager said. "He's one of the execs here. He wanted to thank you." I turned. Same Jeff, older by a couple of years, still with the golf tan. "Ben," he said, surprised, "I thought that was you on the trucks. Heard you were divorced. Didn't know you were still in town." "Somebody's got to keep the pipes honest," I said. He smiled. "Well, consider us grateful," he said. "Our people would be ankle deep without you." I shrugged, all in a day's work. He hesitated. "I never got to say that night at your house. I saw what happened. It stuck with me. You handled it with more grace than most people would have." "Grace," I repeated, amused. Not the word I'd have used at the time. "It made me think a lot about how we talk about work," he said. "Titles and all that. I ended up hiring my nephew as an apprentice electrician instead of pushing him toward some random degree he didn't want. Best decision he's made." "Good for him," I said. He nodded. "Anyway, I won't keep you. Just good to see you doing well." "You too," I said. He walked back inside. I went back to the actual work, feeling oddly lighter. People occasionally ask if I miss Lisa. Not just the person, but the shiny life. The big house, the events, the feeling of walking into a room on someone's arm when everyone knows her name. Sometimes, sure. I miss having someone waiting when I get home. I miss her laugh on the good days, the way she'd dance in the kitchen when she thought no one was watching. I don't miss being corrected like I'm a child. I don't miss watching her face tighten when I say plumber instead of contractor. I don't miss being the quiet piggy bank behind her LinkedIn posts about having it all. In my new house, there's no one kicking me under the table, no one wincing when I say ain't. If someone needs a label for me, I provide it. I'm a plumber. I own a company. I get called sir by big men in small towels at gyms when their showers back up. I get called at 2 in the morning by restaurants with toilets that won't flush before brunch. I send invoices. They get paid. The title doesn't need dressing up. The pipes don't care if you went to Harvard or community college. They care if you know what you're doing. So do I. The crazy part is, The thing Lisa was ashamed of is what gave her the life she loved. My blue-collar job funded her white-collar wardrobe, her MBA, the house she posed in on Instagram. When I stepped away, the money stepped with me. She adjusted like people do. Downscaled. Got roommates for a while from what I heard through mutual friends. She's still climbing. She'll probably make VP someday. I hope for her sake that whoever she's with then is someone she's proud to stand next to without changing their job title to fit the room. As for me, I come home to a house I fixed myself, a dog who doesn't care what I'm wearing, and a table where no one kicks me for talking about my day. Sometimes on Friday nights, I sit on my back step with a beer, watching the sun go down over the Rockies, and think about pipes and people. You can't see most of the important work. It's under floors, behind walls, under skin. But when it's done right, everything flows and no one panics when they flush. When it's done wrong, it bursts at the worst possible time and lets everyone see what's really underneath. Lisa told her friends I was a contractor because she was ashamed to say I'm a plumber. Then the toilet broke at her dinner party. She told me not to touch it. So I stopped touching a lot of things. And I let the consequences find their own level.